right, we have another Uniting Nations of Cloud presentation coming up next. And so we're going to do it all at once. The moderator is our own Soeren von Varchmin. He's going to bring his panel to introduce them. So please welcome the next panel starring Soeren von Varchmin. Please, Soeren.
Hello, hello. Please take a seat. This is my my personal favorite session for today because it's the following. I'm working in what OGs call it here, web hosting, for the last 25 years. And I'm kind of thinking that I know a lot about web hosting, and I know many, many hosters all over the world. But for me, after 25 years, Africa is still kind of a white spot. What's going on in this cloud service provider industry, how we call it nowadays? How's the ecosystem looking in Africa? So we have a very diverse group here when it comes to geographics. We have Zied here from Tunisia, we have Toluwani from Nigeria, and Michael from South Africa. So let's start with you, Zied. Do you like to give us an overview about SAFOZI, your company, your geographical focus, and what you're doing in terms of products and services?
Yes, so actually I founded SAFOZI in 2012 after coming back from Germany. So at that time we were convinced that Tunisia is one of the emerging countries, and from an emerging continent would need to have access to digital infrastructure. That's why we wanted to provide digital infrastructure for the local market. And so what we provide are mainly IaaS and infrastructure and platform as a service for the Tunisian market, but also we have customers from all over the world. Yeah, we also do help companies building a cloud business, always with the focus on Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Zied. Toluwani, you're next.
So I run Go54. So we've been around for 17 years in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, domains, web hosting, shared hosting, cloud hosting, now over 100,000 customers.
Host Africa was basically founded 8 years ago with myself and a partner of mine, actually, right? You might hear my accent, I'm actually German. I moved there to South Africa, and we are, one of the biggest hosting providers in South Africa, at least, and most probably also the rest of Africa. We have presence in Nigeria, we have presence in Kenya, even staff there, but our biggest market is still South Africa.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the market conditions we find, maybe in the different regions. If we say, okay, there's the Southern Africa, there's West Africa, with Nigeria, surrounding countries, North Africa and East Africa, maybe with Kenya as the leader. Let's take a look into the market conditions we are finding there. So I think everyone in the audience kind of heard like, okay, it's mobile first as a continent. We always hear it's different than Europe or US. So what are the differentialities? Toluwani, do you want to pick that up?
So I think it's mobile first. And there's still a massive segment that's offline, right? And I think the way we think around product differentiation market is really how do we drive that digitization, right? So how do you bring a lot of people offline, online?
Mm-hmm. If you look at the geographical, regions, kind of, you have the Southern Africa, what is kind of like a European market, right? It's guys like you and me that running business. SMBs a lot, right? Typical, actually, I would say nearly European market, actually, right? Not as big. To give you an idea, the GDP of South Africa is half of Switzerland, right? Mm-hmm. And also in terms of domains, South Africa is the biggest market, right? With 1.3 million domains. And the rest of Africa has less than this, actually, right? So we're talking about, geographical domains, about 2 to 3 million, right? And if you look at Netherlands, they have 6 million registered domains. That gives you an idea about the adoption of, domains, email, the classical services. That doesn't necessarily mean the guys are not digital, right? Kind of 1.2 billion cell phones out there, and most of them are nowadays smartphones, right? So certain industries and certain industries have basically managed to also attract or get into the average African user, right? So that's why, I mean, the guys are digital nowadays, right? But unfortunately, domain industry, the hosting industries did not took off, right? And the addressable market is still very little in Africa. It's growing. I mean, sometimes we leapfrogging even in Africa, in some African countries, right? But adoption for, especially in our industry, cloud hosting services were still very little, kind of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I think, so we need to make difference or to separate between web hosting services and the cloud services. So I'm seeing that, and it's also, yeah, it correlates with the market maturity. And what we do in SAFOZI, we focus more on the cloud service. Of course, we are facing the challenges of the security, of the cloud adoption, and but at least from the North African or from Tunisian market perspective, so the adoption of the cloud services is growing. We have also platform, container, and Kubernetes users. It's also growing. At the same time, also, so it's growing. It has a huge free room to grow, but it's still small. And actually, the market is if we observe the market from the maturity perspective, it's really diverse. So we have people that masters a lot of technology, but we have also people that don't understand what is like a domain or a web hosting and why they do need an email. So in your journey, you can speak with a customer who can teach you even your job, and sometimes you have to explain the very simple thing why you need to have like a corporate identity with your own email address to work with like European or international companies. So this is the things that this kind of challenge we are tackling, but this is actually the opportunity in the market itself, because this is what you can convert in revenues.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the addressable market obviously grow bigger, but it, in our perspective, maybe me as a European, you think like all these factors we have in the hosting industry or cloud service provider industry in Europe or in US don't really work, like density of SMBs or mom and pop shops or a density of domains per citizen in the country. So this is something which is not really working, to find the addressable market. So let's maybe start from a different perspective. What is your best-selling product, Michael, at Host Africa?
Yeah, it's actually still web hosting, kind of. But I mean, the thing is, South Africa is still kind of, as I said, kind of a European market, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of Africa is very difficult. I mean,
let's talk about Kenya. You have a big operation.
Absolutely. I mean, we have in Kenya, we're the second biggest host hub by domains, right? So, still it's web hosting, a big selling product, but it's on a different scale than South Africa, right? I mean, but the problem that I see is basically, I mean, they said we have 1.2 billion people there with mobile phones, right? But I mean, basically, we don't have a product for them as a hoster, right? I mean, I'll give you this little example that I told you earlier, right? I mean, I have my gym coach, right? He also does hats, right? Kind of. And he wants to sell it online, right? And he asked me, since I'm doing hosting, right? I said, how can I get online, right? I mean, the guy only has a mobile phone, right? But I mean, he could sell he sells a lot of his hats, and most probably in this area, he could sell far more, right? But then he asked me, what can you do to go online? And I asked actually even my web developer, I mean, if our website builder is mobile enough, right, to get him going. I mean, we don't have a product. And that's the problem with all the hosters in South Africa. I mean, no one has actually a solution for the, average African that's is on his mobile phone, right? And we're talking again 1.2 billion guys out there, right? So it's massive, a massive market, right? Some industries have done this, for example, with banks, right? And so my concern is actually that we missing out those customers, and then they're on WhatsApp, on any other platform, and then they're selling there, like WeChat and things like this, so that they never get to a domain, right? And the guys using, by the way, Gmail, right? 90% of the emails is Gmail emails, meaning gmail.com as domain, so they don't use domain. So, my fear is basically that the guys, simply, leapfrogging us, simply never get to the hosting market. I might be wrong, right? So, but that's actually the danger. And again, I think we don't have the right product, and it's because we don't have also the big guys, no one really looks at, I mean, it's the easiest, of course, and we do the same, right? Simply use the products that you have in Europe and the US, plug it in and sell it in Africa, right? So, but this big opportunity for guys that want to move into this market is actually these mobile users, right? And there's one last example I want to give you, right? Like with banks, right? I mean, we have a similar situation in Kenya. And so the banks are actually, I mean, the average customer doesn't have a bank account anymore. They have a mobile operator, right? And they do mobile payment for them. So, I mean, basically the mobile operator took over, right, instead of the bank, right? So they're making the money now with the customer, right? And so this is the same risk that we are facing in Africa. If you don't give the guys the right products, right, they might never do hosting. They might never use a domain, right? So this is the risk.
In Nigeria or West African countries, what works better for you, website builder or WordPress?
Yes, so our largest product today is still web hosting.
Yeah.
But we realized the same problem. And so late last year, we acquired a marketing business that has SMS marketing, email marketing, and a link in bio product. And effectively, the way we think about that is making it easier for people in the offline market to come online. So in a perfect world, we want them to get to domains and hosting the cloud products. But we know there's a high barrier to entry in that point. So we start on the cheaper end, right? So bulk SMS, and they're paying that for $2 or $3, right? So you go to someone who sells in a market in Lagos or Accra, and they're happy to do that, right? We have foot soldiers actually selling those products locally, right? So I do that, and then tomorrow I'm like, hey, that worked, right? Maybe I want to get a domain, right? We sell Google My Business. So hey, for free, just list your business on Google. Okay. So we're doing a lot of evangelizing to ensure that people are coming online before we then upsell the products we actually want, like an AI website builder, etc. But it's very hard from an adoption point to sell that first. So we need to sort of hook them with, offline, link in bio, Instagram, WhatsApp business adaptable products.
Okay. Cloud services in North Africa. I think that's something you concentrate on as well, serving small, medium-sized businesses there. How do you see the adoption of?
So actually in the beginning, it wasn't easy to sell the cloud server using the word cloud. And so we were able to sell the services based on the features or the solution that you can solve with this feature, with the cloud feature, with the automation, all the automation what comes with it. So for now, our main product, our main, let's say, service that we provide is the cloud. And so we had to develop some tricks or the idea to educate the market, to make it, to let them understand why it's sometimes better to have a VM instead of buying a server, dedicated server. We helped also people to like based on some TCO, total cost of ownership analysis, show them that having a server is cost you much lower than acquiring a server. We have to explain these things easily, and and sometimes we had to introduce sometimes some other services so that we increase the attraction of the cloud service. For example, with a simple VPS, when we added in our portfolio the simple VPS, the people started making the difference. So we try to educate the market with these things. So we started to make the difference between the simple VPS or the cloud virtual machine, and then we increased the price. So and then we also help the customer make the difference, understand what comes included in terms of performance, in terms of features, backup and stay and space and these other things. This is how we are actually trying to make the money or to make our revenues. And regarding the thing is the Gmail, I think for me it's using the simple emails. It's a good thing because the need of using email, it's there. So the gmail.com is a good proof. The thing is that the market still don't understand the importance of having their own email. And this is actually part of the market education that we need to do, or everybody needs to do. Because, for example, if you want to make business with like Germany here and you come and you send an email with Yahoo or Gmail, So the partner won't take you. It's not a serious email. It could be also a fake person behind it. And this is one of the reasons, for example, one of the arguments we use to push people to get out of Gmail. And if they are out of Gmail, so they have a domain name, and then they will think about their own website, and then email. And this is how we start the first steps, the basics of digitization. Yeah, and so this is the thing.
And let's not talk maybe about a mom and pop shop, but some kind of serious business. What do you kind of resell? Is it Office 365? Is it Google Suite? Or do you take some white label, Open Exchange or Oxygen? What is the best choice to offer?
So we have a lot of people putting a lot of money to use 365 or G Suite from Google, yeah? But the solution is the topic data protection and having the own data stored locally or in a near market. So we've seen what happened like in Yemen with the cables, and a few days ago also in West Africa with the cables. So people now are winning in awareness the importance of having the solution deployed locally. That's important. And also from our side, if we resell Google or 365, so the margins, to be honest, the margins are not that big than building the solution ourselves, managing the solution also, and providing this. So that's why we use either we want to push. So as a founder of service provider, we push to have our own solution more than reselling what the hyperscale is providing.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so we resell Microsoft 365, Google, and that's with AWS, Azure, GCP, DigitalOcean. And on the enterprise side, there's a lot of adoption for that. I think especially with Techstars, Y Combinator, a lot of the startups are buying that from us. And maybe you're doing like $2-3 million per month across West Africa.
Okay.
You mentioned a good point. It's also maybe interesting for the audience, right? Connectivity is actually still a big topic there, right? And now we had this undersea cable cuts, right? A couple of times. So basically, Microsoft was basically down in South Africa for a couple of days now. I mean, close to down, right? Since didn't have connectivity or enough connectivity, right? And even we had customers.
They have a data center in South Africa.
In South Africa, exactly. In Cape Town, we're basically kind of dead, right? And my best friend has a fintech company, quite large one, right? So basically, also fintech company was down, right? I mean, it's a massive. I mean, infrastructure is a massive issue in South Africa. It's not as good as in the rest of the world, right? And so, I mean, that's also the thing, right? In Africa, we have basically, I mean, as we said, I mean, Western Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and so we have kind of, I mean, countries where everything is concentrated in. So, for example, South Africa, I mean, there are several countries, but actually all the infrastructure sits in South Africa. It's the same in West Africa, it's basically everything Nigeria, maybe Ghana a bit, right? And East Africa is basically everything is Kenya, right? And so that's where we also focus on actually at the end, right? We building our data centers there. I mean, we don't own the data centers, but our co-location, our rack space that we have is in those countries, right? And we're serving the rest of the countries actually from there. And we're also kind of maybe trying to sell our own services ideally in order to get better margin. So, I mean, Microsoft is there. I mean, kind of the guys selling their services, no doubt, right? But we don't sell them. And most of the medium-sized hosters are doing actually the same, right? I mean, but as I said, it's a very similar product set the hosters have in Africa than a European hoster, right?
Yeah.
Kind of simply not the scale, right?
But in that perspective, what works better, like a simple website builder or WordPress? So I mean, or maybe extend the question a little bit. As we know, it's a de facto standard, especially in Europe and America. 45% of all websites worldwide. Does it have the same kind of brand in Africa, WordPress? Is it known to some extent? And
I mean, from what I see, it's the same, right? We have tracked it recently. 65% of our websites are WordPress, right? So it's similar. Okay. And the problem with website builders, I mean, website is still not easy. Even with the easiest website builder, right? It's kind of difficult for the guys, especially if when you're on mobile, right? It's kind of what we see. I mean, selling a lot of website builders. I mean, but I mean, the churn is massive, right? So the guys simply don't get the website up, right? And so that's why I think, I mean, if you look at the future, I mean, we build it for you is actually, I think, is a big topic, right? And we're tapping into this actually now. So I think, I mean, this is a service we can sell in order to reduce churn. I mean, as one of the biggest hosts, we sell tons of web hosting packages, and actually tons of site builders. But I mean, the churn, I mean, 80% of the guys are gone in 3 months, unfortunately, right? So this is the reality. And so that's why I think that's where we have to, I mean, deliver better service to our customers.
Yeah, but and just what Michael's saying, it's got to be mobile responsive, right? And I think in other parts of the world, you can think of hardware devices, but in Africa, I think people are even moving from feature phones to smartphones, so you've got to meet them there.
As we know, Europe is in the laggard phase of consolidation when it comes to the cloud service provider industry. Africa is obviously very fragmented. Private equity is not looking yet into that market. Let's talk a little bit for the last minutes. How do you operate? How do you fund yourself? I think all of you have very, very different perspectives and backgrounds on that. Let's start with you, Zied. Like, why did you get started with that in the first place, and how do you fund your operation?
So SAFOZI is self-funded actually, and so I had to work different things in the beginning. So we did also sometimes web hosting, project management, IT project management, and try to invest this revenue in the to grow the cloud business. And you know, investing in IT on virtual project, it's not that easy. It's not that easy for the local investors because it's not really something tangible like real estate or something like that. So the people, they don't understand these things. Yeah, so we do it organically, but we are always looking for investors because at the end of the day, investment is time, and time is money, but we are doing so. We were able, despite the hard competition from global player, European player, we were able to have our margin and grow the business. Sure, not with the right speed or what, as we are also not an eternal unsatisfied person as an entrepreneur, but so this is how we do it, and it's the margin that is now growing our business, and we see that it takes some time to have like the local experts that can say that this is lucrative business. I think there is a tremendous investment opportunity in the African market, but to convert it in real lucrative business, the people are missing, or from both sides, from the investment side and also from the market. I'm not talking about myself or the team here. There are a lot of good people, but you know, for an investment, you need to have all the chain, and you didn't have a solid chain to have the check. And this is something that it's improving, let's say.
Yes, thanks, Zied.
Yes, so we're a different model. Didn't start the company, bought the company last year. Yes, and so
Really
we run.
fresh.
Yeah.
The way to start.
And so we're actively investing in other African companies in the hosting space. Yeah, and so we're actively consolidating in the space.
Okay.
I mean, we have an equity partner, basically that helps us to grow, and we trying to grow aggressively also by smaller mergers and acquisitions, right? I mean, the scale is simply different than Europe. I mean, obviously, there's opportunity, but again, right, the market is, you said it right, very fragmented in Africa, so it's actually very difficult. I mean, there's things like, I mean, if you look at the 45 countries that are there, right? I mean, the countries that we want to go and we consider as kind of safe bets as growing countries and no military coups, things like this, right? It's actually 16 that you can address out of the 54, right? Still a lot of people, right? But again, addressable market is very little. So it's a lot of fragmentation. We're talking to all the players actually in the industry, to all web hosting companies, but I mean, so the second or third biggest in most of the country is already very little, right? It's most probably like number 500 in Germany. So this is the size we are talking, right? In South Africa, we have very decent players, right? Most of them actually self-funded, right? They grow their company organically over many years. You haven't seen any mergers, acquisitions actually there, right? So it's the reality. As you said, for most of the equity players, it's actually simply too small, right? And so basically we have, I mean, as I said, the kind of equity part is also kind of, I mean, pocket money, most probably for the big guys here, to be honest, right?
So it's difficult to predict what's happening 5 to 10 years from now on, but let's maybe if we meet again in 2025, 1 year from now, what in the markets which you are serving, what kind of growth do you calculate or predict?
I think we're super bullish, right?
In percentage?
In percentage?
Yeah.
Growth, was you?
Growth, yeah. In customer base.
Conservatively, I would say 30-40%.
Okay.
Like we're aggressively using different ways to grow in the market. So offline models, evangelizing in the, not really just digital ads and SEO, etc., but really actively foot on the ground, getting people online.
It's the time to be aggressive.
Yeah, and
with customer acquisition.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. For you, Michael?
I mean, we growing between 25 and 50% depending on the year organically. It was quite aggressive actually. So I mean, we see good growth, but the whole market, like in South Africa, if you look at the domains, right, is flat now for 5 years. Same in Kenya, same in Nigeria. That's a bit concerning, to be honest, right? I mean, especially since I mean, it's only so little domains, right? It's not like .com domains, so it's a bit concerning. But as Zied also said, I mean, the cloud infrastructure is growing, right? The big guys are there in South Africa. You have Azure, you have Google. All the guys have data centers there. I mean, there's a need for infrastructure, right? Yeah. And actually, we're also serving this market, right? I mean, we have a strong presence in South Africa with different locations. We're selling VPSs, we're selling dedicated servers, and then we see some growth. But also at the domain side and the web hosting side, we're still growing a lot, right? So basically, we're most probably simply a bit better than the rest of the market. So I think it looks actually quite promising for us, right? We have to do our homework simply. Mm-hmm. Simply be better what we are now. So actually, I'm looking.
I mean, growing 50% per year organically sounds fun.
No, that's absolutely fine.
That's a couple of acquisitions.
Simply have to do it better than the rest.
How about you, Zied, with your territory?
So my growth strategy is actually trying to provide high quality service with an affordable price. So in SAFOZI, we don't do a lot of sales, a lot of marketing. So it's actually the mouth propaganda helping us growing. And we were able to have minimum 20-30%. And we have actually constantly, so we have about 1,500 customers. The third of them, they are really active. And they are upselling. They are always trying to have more services. So, and we don't do a lot of sales or a lot of marketing. And this is something we want to start. And we can, in our stage, we can easily double the revenue, especially when we work on projects. And the numbers are different when we help other companies with projects. And yeah, so there is a lot of room to grow, especially having customers either from the people acquire hardware, we target them, people from European or big player or hyperscaler, we target them, and newcomers also target them.
I learned a lot. It's our Africa Day. This afternoon, just after lunch, we have Professor Nee here, Internet Hall of Fame, for bringing the internet to Africa. He's from Ghana, Accra. This is actually, he's the one, but you have a job. You should be extra thankful to him when he comes later today.
I met with him in Tunisia, so after Nick Day.
Right, from the other side, true. So I'm looking forward to that, and we have Dr. Auma Obama from Kenya here, last slot of the day. It will be very inspirational talk of the work she's doing in East Africa. And what I learned also, I didn't know that, she was a Let's Dance participant in German TV. So I'm looking forward to that. That will be 5:30, last session of the day. So yeah, thanks a lot to you. I give back to Elisabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you.